and welcome to my channel, Rainmaker's Journey. I am Rainmaker. Um, so I thought this time I would talk a little bit more about the BPD, the Borderline Personality Disorder. Okay, so um, here I go, getting all mentally disorganized again, and I was good, like right before I clicked the record button. I have my notebook. So that will help. So I wanna begin with this. How I arrived at this idea of having BPD was through figuring out that my ex is a covert narcissist, vulnerable narcissist. Like if you go look up all about what that is, it is exactly him. But he did not have, of course, a formal diagnosis of all of that. But yeah, so all I can say is he has all of the qualities that it takes to be diagnosed as a covert or vulnerable narcissist. So we will say he is my toxic ex. Yeah, and so this was actually 2018, and I'm just imagining all of 2018 in my head. That was an intense year for us, me, my toxic ex, and I have two kids. And they are part of my story, just as I am a big part of their story. So 2018 began with March when we got my teenager diagnosed with ADHD. I was looking for an autism diagnosis, and the doctor was like, well, okay, why don't we test for ADHD first and isolate that and see what symptoms are left over. Okay, so we did that and got her ADHD diagnosis. So then we moved to the rest of the year, and I had her in school at the time, middle school, and it was very hard, and I was still working at that time. I think I was still working at a skilled nursing facility at that time as a certified nursing assistant. And so I would work like it was 4 days on and 2 days off rotating cycle. Could be an 8-hour shift usually, sometimes a 14, 16, 18-hour shift. Yeah, it was a lot. And then he would be at home all day not doing anything really. I eventually got my teenager a phone because then I could text her and see what was going on, and know that they were all right and had eaten food, because literally he would not feed them. They would go sneak to the kitchen and get apples. That's like all they ate was apples. It was, I guess, safe. Because if I texted or called him on my lunch break or whatever, he would yell at me, he would fuss at me for bugging him. Why are you getting on my case? I'm just wanting to know what the girls ate. I had a toothache, so it's my face over here is a little sensitive, and My face is not swollen, but I'm okay now. This entire last week my face was like pain and swelling, and it's good. I have an extraction next week. So it's just a little distracting talking because I feel it. But yeah, and so then we are getting now further into the year, and that I think I had left my nursing facility around April, May. I quit that work so that I could work for an in-home care agency so I could have a more flexible schedule because I wanted to go back to school, which I did that fall. I enrolled at a local college for communications, writing, speaking, that kind of thing. I loved it. Um, so then it was November, and I'm doing in-home care work, and my teenager is still in middle school, and it was her birthday. And oh, okay, yeah. So several lot note that November 2018, a lot happened within a very 2-3 weeks. So let's see what was going on. So her diagnosis happened. I took her out of class early because an uh, we had her appointment. We had to drive about an hour um, to for her testing, to complete her testing for her autism diagnosis. Um, and then I don't know, there was something that happened at school. I'm trying to think about the exact events. I'm not sure. I don't know that exactly it matters, but it was like weird. Like maybe it was, well, it was on there was her birthday. And then that day, I think, was like a half day. And they called me on a half day to come pick her up from school, and they wouldn't tell me why. And I went, and they didn't like an answer she gave on a paper. And this is part of the autism. She's so literal, she answered in a literal way. And and she abbreviated like her answer. She was like sarcastic about it or something like and they wanted her to leave school because she wouldn't, I don't know. It was crazy. I don't know. I'm not even editing or anything or pausing, but um it was stupid, and they were trying to put words in her mouth, like she was trying to say the F word or something as an abbreviation with what she was saying, and it wasn't. She was using a different word, you know, and they kept trying to push her to say that, and that's what she was saying, and it wasn't, and she really wasn't. She's not like that. My kid's not like that. My 8-year-old, on the other hand. um so um so in the end, I took her home, but it was stupid. I mean, this was a half day, which means they would get out at like 11:30, and they called me mid-morning, like at 9 or 10 in the morning, to come get her early. And that's just really dumb, uh, and arbitrary, and it just made me feel like it was a punishment. And yeah, I was really done with this school, really. The next day, she wasn't going to be in school at all. I had her out of school the next day anyway because um, that was when we were going to the autism center to have her finish her diagnosis, or or that was on her birthday, was the autism. I don't remember right now. I'm not gonna, you know what, I can actually, it was a different phone. It's not gonna be in this phone. But anyway, all of that was unnecessary, um, and frustrating. So I had that extra stress, and then driving an hour north in traffic was, to get there on time and getting anywhere on time for me, especially when there's like, it's traffic, it's not just an hour drive, it's a 2 hour drive, it's crazy. So, um, so anyway, we came out of that with an autism diagnosis. And then I had a client that I had to go to at 9 in the, well, I had a client at noon, I think, um, in a city that was maybe about a 40-minute drive away, 30-40-minute drive away. And I wanted to leave early. I was going to leave right at 9 o'clock. This is the next week. I was going to leave right at 9 o'clock so that I could sit at a coffee shop nearby my client for an hour or two to do work on my final speech for my class. It was the final grade for my class, um, to work on that for an hour before my client for 2 hours. It was a 3 hours, and then I would be back home again, right? Um, I was in my scrubs. I was ready to go. I was just sitting there with my laptop going over a couple of things and getting myself ready. And my ex throws the phone across from the living room all the way into where I was sitting at the counter in the kitchen. And he comes in there to picks it up, looking to see, did I break it? Um, and and then he have an exchange, and he's like, he's feeling suicidal, he's a danger to himself and others. And I'm like, I closed my laptop and I was like, it was just 9 o'clock and I was just gonna, like, literally about to pick up my stuff and go. and he's telling me he's suicidal and a danger to himself and others. And I'm like, do you want me to call the hospital? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? I'm just like, all calm, okay? Pissed, but calm, which is really big because I used to never be this calm. I was with this guy for 11 years. And I used to freak out and get, oh my God, um, so worked up, that he would do something or he would leave. I was just like, really, but actually, literally, since going to this school, I had started to meet people. It only took me a couple of months going to this school to even just like socialize with people and start to realize that, you know, this dynamic with him is not okay, and to stay calm and not engage. I was working on that, and um so he's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I called the hospital and the emergency room, and they're like, yeah, just bring him in, okay? And I had thought the girls were like still sleeping. And I called a friend of mine who lived in a city, um, really like right next to, really close, like maybe 10 minutes away from where my client was going to be, and hoping that she was home and could watch my girls. And she was. And I told her what was up. Okay. And so it was this big fast thing. Okay. He went and threw some pants on, and I got my laptop in my bag and got myself together and, you know, poked my head in, and the girls it looked like they were sleeping to me. So I left and with him and was already on the phone to the scheduler, um, with my in-home care agency, and letting them know I'm having a family emergency. I have to take my husband to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they were going to let the client know I may be late, told her I've got to go to this city and drop my kids off at, my friend's house and then go to my client. So, um, so when we get there to the hospital, oh, before we left, I heard him say something in the living room. I wasn't sure that I heard him right. He muttered something. Um, and it wasn't until way later that I had confirmation from my teenager who actually was awake and heard everything. But that was in the evening after this whole day was over with. But this is actually, it's like what he said out loud was the same thing as he muttered in the living room. But we get to the emergency room, and there were like about 5 people in the waiting area, and the admitting nurse was there, and he says really loudly to the admitting nurse, I had thoughts of killing my stepdaughter. Yeah, like, okay, so this is like making a big deal, attention, all of that, right? So um, I left him, and then I called the scheduler, let her know that was done. I'm on my way to get my kids, and I'll let you know when we're headed. Okay. So I got them together, and we left, and we went to my friend's house, and I dropped them off really fast, and um, let the scheduler know, okay, now I'm on my way to the client. It's going to be this long. And I ended up being there for the 2 hours of the shift instead of 3. It worked out. Uh, I spent a nice 2 hours watching really old Western TV shows that I grew up watching with my grandpa, with this really nice old uh, gentleman with dementia, while his wife went Thanksgiving grocery shopping with her son who was in town. And I was just so grateful for that peaceful shift. It was super easy. I didn't really need to do much of anything. We just companionship, and it was lovely. Meanwhile, I was able to text all of my friends and tell them what was going on while I was enjoying watching Casablanca. uh, um, or not Casablanca, yeah, whatever, the Western shows. But um, and then I when I left there, um, I had a little time. My friend was good. Didn't have to worry about him. He was still at the hospital. So I went to a coffee shop about 4 blocks away from my friend's house and did my computer work on my final speech. And then I got a call from the hospital saying that if I wanted to give him anything or see him or whatever, before they transferred him further away to a mental health facility, then I needed to be there by 6. I'm like, so, traffic. So I'm like, okay. And so I closed up my laptop and everything and went over to my friend's house, talked to them really quick, got the girls together, and then we got through the traffic as fast as we could, got home. I needed to give him his supplements. So way back, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2009, 2010, we figured out we figured out that he had pyroluria. So that's it's a condition that may or may not, it may be genetic, and but isn't always. Sometimes it's because of the formation of a lot of stress. It's because of a lot of stress. But pyroluria, if you're not familiar, it's called different things like the MOV factor, um, cryptopyrrole syndrome, stuff like that. And so pyrroles, Pyrrholes, and you can totally look this up, um, are a byproduct of the formation of hemoglobin. It's formation of blood cells, basically. And the body will create an overabundance of these. And pyrroles have an affinity to bind with certain minerals like B vitamins, zinc, magnesium. Um, I think it's all of them, but I'm not sure. It may just be B vitamins or B1, B or B12, B3, which is niacin, or zinc, something like that. I don't remember all of that right now off the top of my head because it's been a long time since I needed to know this actively. Use it or lose it. But anyway, they'll bind with those nutrients. The pyrroles will bind with those nutrients, which will render them ineffective. So basically, they're eating up these vitamins, minerals, before your body has a chance to use them. And this is going to create a massive deficiency in these vitamins and minerals. And boy, let me tell you, if you are severely deficient in magnesium, if you are severely deficient in zinc, if you are severely deficient in B12, any of the B vitamins, B12, B6, B3, you go psychotically crazy. And this is what would happen to him. And I had been supplementing him. We figured out, it took a few years to figure out the right, and with the right amounts. And I was documenting all of this very carefully and precisely, and with his reactions and how he felt and his reporting, as well as my observations of his behaviors. I was giving him evening primrose oil, which is an omega. It's an omega oil. I don't remember it's the omega-3 or the omega-6s. One or the other are good or not good for pyroluria. In any case, we figured out a good dosage for him, and this emotionally balanced him fine. And like, if we would call it a 3-week mark, because if he missed a dose or took a dose of the primrose oil half an hour late, more than half an hour late, or missed it entirely, it was called a 3-week mark, because it would take exactly 3 weeks to that day for him to go all the way down to a low depression and then all the way back up to homeostasis. And so whenever this would happen, I would have to mark it on a calendar so I could chart that progress and know how long it would be before we had normal dude back, you know. And it was be a very, very stressful time, to be sure. There was a lot of crazy. And anyway, so you can understand, I was freaking out that he's going to go to a mental hospital and not have his supplements. And when he got done, I was going to have this completely unsupplemented psychomaniac husband. And I'm like, but I have to be working and school and all of this. And I'm like, no. So I wanted to make sure he got that. So I got home and got his supplements and left. And he knew what he needed to take. But later on, I wrote this big paper up and stuff. I did. I had already written a paper of all of the supplements and everything. And I took that and gave it to him in a bag, and that was it. And then I didn't see him for 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Was it 3 weeks? I don't know. Maybe it was longer than 3 weeks. 3 months? A month? My memory is bad. A while. That first night without him was the most peaceful we had ever had. We ate ice cream for supper and watched the never ending story and put on chakra meditation music on the visualization on the Xbox 360 after that and went to bed. I didn't cook dinner. We didn't actually eat food. That was it. We ate ice cream and watched the never ending story and went to bed. Yeah. And leading up to that, right before that, we were having, he had been triggered by me kind of bringing up out of nowhere that we were going to have a rent issue, and he got triggered in a depression and freaked out. That was something that also happened around that time, right before all of him going up to the hospital. Okay, so it was while he was away, I was starting to notice these changes and differences in myself, the house, the environment, my girls. It was a really good time when he was gone. And he would call me, um, or I would call a hospital, check on him, and he would call me, and it would be the most disruptive thing. He would be talking about how he was going to be getting out of there in a couple of days, or he was going to be getting discharged any day now or whatever. And and when I talked to the doctors, they weren't giving him his supplements. They were giving him some other medications, and I was, oh my God, it was like a nightmare to talk to any of them about any of it. I guess they didn't believe in pyroluria. I don't know. It was hard. Um, in the end, I had the hospital. I told them, look, when y'all discharge him, I don't want him sent home. I want him to stay in that city where he is and go through the process and go through DSHS and get his own work and his own housing. And, you know, then after he's doing better, then I'll figure it out after that, coming home or whatever. I had some kind of feeling that day, and I called the hospital, and he had already been discharged, and they couldn't tell me where he was going. And so I was at Walmart just gonna pick up some crayons and a sketchbook for my kids and some things like that. And instead I just decided to go straight home. And I called my teenager first and said, look, I'm on my way home. Dad's been just discharged. He may be on his way to the house. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been. They're not telling me anything. I want you guys to go close all the blinds, and I want y'all to go, not answer the door. Don't look through the peephole. Don't look through any windows. I want y'all to go wait in the bathroom for me. I'll be home soon, because the bathroom had no windows, and like even if they went in the kitchen, there's like a window, and I couldn't close all the blinds in the kitchen. So wait for me to get home. I got home. No sooner had I got home and shut the door and put everything down and taken off my shoes and gave the girls hugs when there was a knock on the door. I looked at the peephole. Guess what? There he was. Oh, wow. I just got there. And so I breathed and grounded. I had the girls go in their room. I shut the door. And I'm like, hello. And he said, he said, he asked if he could come in. I'm like, well, um, I was like, I don't know. And I and he I don't remember exactly the exchange though, but he told me, he was quickly telling me that, look, he has Oof. I have a. I'm okay. I had a little pain right there. It's just a little gas pocket. I'm all right. Um, no heart attack. Uh, and and he said that he has an appointment with his caseworker in the morning, and it was like in that other city far away. Can he at least spend the night? He has it in the morning. He'll be on the bus early. I'm like, all right. So we can't. I let him in, and we talked, and it was like, okay, we decided it was good. He told me all about it, the medication he was on, and he gained a lot of weight. He was always so thin and gaunt, as was I, actually. I've gained weight since. I look good, I think. Um, feel better, and um, that was part of the deficiency, is his gauntness as well. And so he gained healthy weight. He looked good, and they fed him a lot, and he had insurers and stuff like that too, and it's medication and all of this. And we both mutually agreed that this was a good place where we both needed to pursue our own journeys, and then, stay in touch, the kids and that kind of thing. And it was all right, and he seemed better, and he agreed that he wanted to go do his own thing, go through DSHS and get his work and living space and all that. So yeah, the next morning he went up to the city, and he was homeless and in shelters and whatnot for until March. He got in the next year, February, March. He got into a new housing apartment, and um, all of that time though, November, December, January, and February were very emotionally stressful for me. Um, he was only supposed to be coming down on weekends, like Saturday, Sunday. So he'd come down a Friday night and leave Sunday morning or Sunday night, or come down a Saturday morning and leave on a Monday morning, or something like that. I don't know, but ended up being 4 days. He ended up being down for 4 days and gone for 3, or he'd just be down for 3 days and gone 4 days. But it would take me, after he'd been down, then he was gone, it would take me 3 whole days to recover from him being there, emotionally recover and clean the house. I don't know, like, he didn't do anything, but why was the house always such a mess? Like, I mean, he didn't leave trash. It was just, I mean, and it was more than just the kids. It was just, I don't know. I can't explain it, but the house just always seemed so much messier after he had been there. And, I mean, even if he picked up or whatever, it just seemed messier to me. It felt that way. I had to go around and cleaning up more, but it took me 3 days to emotionally recover from him being there. And then I'd be okay again for like one day, and then he'd be back. It was hard. And then, especially in February that year, there were some hellacious winter storms and blizzards. And so, of course, I had to, the shelters were shut down. The homeless shelters were shut down. And so he would have had nowhere. What was I going to do? I wasn't going to literally leave them out in the cold. Um, but yeah, so I had him at the apartment, all that time. And then the campus was shut down, so I didn't even have my escape to get to the campus. And it was just really awful. And then when he got into his apartment, yeah, I spent like $200 taking him on a shopping spree at Goodwill to get furnishings and things. But he did get through his case manager. He was able to get other furniture and stuff too, but oh my God. And then for the entire next year to 2019, it was this back and forth. Like he would still come down to visit sometimes, and we would go up there to visit him. I was doing work with the local radio station stuff, and so sometimes I would go up to the city to do like a or to volunteer with a pledge drive for for the radio station there, and so I needed him to watch the girls during that time, and it was just, oh, they had put in his apartment complex, right in the doorway on the left when you came in, they put in like a little playroom, and they even had like a little playground in the backyard and the courtyard. And I whenever we went in, I would ask him, "Why don't you take Clover in there?" And he would look at me like, "No, I can't do that. I have my social anxiety." I'm like right in front of her too, right in front of her, and she was like 5 at the time, almost 6. Um, and so it's like, how would that feel, you know? And I was like, I pressed him on it, like, really, like that's a lame excuse or something like that. And he was like, looked at me like, you know, y'all can just leave, you can just leave. I I'm not, do you want me to watch them or not? Kind of thing. Like, whoa. I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, I traveled all of this way with them and I was gonna go do this pledge drive, so that's, I had put myself on the list, and we were volunteering and we needed to volunteer this much time. That was my time. Okay. So, all right. Anyway, it was, things were hard. Um, and I talked to friends. So, so then it was her birthday, my little girl's birthday. She was turning 6 in March, and I had planned, had like 15 people gonna be coming over to our house for her birthday party. And it was not even a house. We had this tiny little 2-bedroom apartment, very tiny apartment. Like we didn't even have a washer and dryer in the unit. You had to go out across the parking lot to our little laundry facility in this section of the apartment complex we were in. And then COVID-19 happened, and um, I'm doing in-home care. And yeah, so that was like, nope, not having it, no birthday. But until that happened, it was, so her birthday was literally that Monday. And I was going to have the party on, I think, the Saturday or the Sunday. It was going to be the Saturday. The Sunday before her birthday, we were going to have the party, I'm pretty sure. And so I messaged him or talked to him on the phone, I don't remember, on that Friday to find out, or Friday, that Friday to find out, when are you coming down? Are you going to come down before or after the party or on the party? So I could plan for that. And he goes, actually, I'm going to come down tomorrow so I can go shopping um, before her birthday, which I was not expecting. I thought he would come down either Sunday for the party or Monday. I was not expecting him to come down Saturday. And that threw me off. And so there's another thing that the narcissists do, is they throw something out there to mess you up. And that's like, he's always been doing that. He's always been doing that to mess me up. In fact, I earlier I had been talking about, I had been working on my final speech. Dude called me from the hospital, the mental hospital, 5 minutes before I needed to be in the classroom. And I had been walking up there and I saw it was him, and like a fool, I answered. So when I got in there, I was all flustered and everything. And I had chosen to go first. And my speech, by the way, was about the chakras, and I was going to lead people in a chakra balancing meditation. The irony. My face when I smile right here. Oh my god. So yeah, that totally threw me off. And where I was. Her birthday. Yeah, so that was literally the last time he ever mentioned her birthday or a present. So I ended up canceling the birthday party and ended up making the cake myself and buying some balloons, and just the three of us had a little party at home. We had intended on doing some FaceTiming on Facebook with some friends and whatever, but I'm not good at coordinating and planning and focusing and just task initiating that. So it never really exactly happened. Um, but I promised her the best birthday the next year. And she did have a great birthday the next year. But that year, so then March and then April and May and June, and it was in June that I fly. It was in June. I was up in the middle of the night. It was like 2, 3 a.m. or something, and I just got this message from him out of nowhere that said all of these things and that he was going to divorce me. I'm like, okay. And I'm still working on that paperwork. Still going to divorce him. I got a whole folder. Got a whole folder over here somewhere. Deal with that. But yeah. So I think that we only had 2 conversations after that. Um, a half-hour video call for my youngest and him, and there was another one that was a little bit longer, and it was with both of my girls. By the way, my oldest was technically his stepdaughter. Um, she he was he was her stepdaughter he was her stepdad since she was 2. It's a fly. Um, yeah, so he's the bio dad of my youngest. Um, my oldest bio dad is another story. And I was talking originally, this was going to be, okay, I'm going to talk about my BPD, and I figured out he was a covert narcissist. That is all what happened. And then it was 2019 now when the divorce thing, and I'm like, what is going on here? What is all of this? And that's when I started looking up a lot of stuff and found out he was a covert narcissist. He has those behavior traits. But I looked at a lot of these different things. Let's see. Um, and honestly, in all of this time since then, being away from him and learning about my mental health issues like this, and working on myself and having my therapy, I was not yet in therapy at that time. but I think 2000 later in 2019, early 2020, I did get into therapy, and it has helped me. Um, the most help though was the listening, having my therapist, just because I've always done my own thing. I've always been better with self-teaching and my own research and figuring out things myself. You know, I don't do it well with people teaching me things. Like, okay, I'll take what you've shared with me and I will go check that out and find out my own information around that myself, and then come back with you, and then we can discuss this and share what we know, and pick up new things, and then I can cross reference that. That's kind of like more my style. Um, that isn't to say that I'm not open to learning new things from people and other sources, but I also like to investigate on my own, you think for yourself. Um, I was looking at this causes of BPD, and there's a lot of these different videos that I had watched. And this was causes of BPD by Dr. Romani. So, like, I totally follow Dr. Romani on YouTube. Biological vulnerability. Is it genetic? Is it through a neurotransmitter? Having an invalidating environment the majority of the time. So my environment was very invalidating as a kid. Other videos that I'd watched: 3 ways the family affects BPD, and etc. This was a Med Circle. I followed some of the Med Circle channel stuff. And this was an interview with Dr. Romani. And then how to spot the 9 traits of BPD. And that is actually what I used to formulate the PowerPoint presentation I made for my therapist, going, so I think I have BPD, and here's why. And it was funny because right when I said that at the beginning of my my appointment, she was like, right after I said that, she's like, I was just gonna ask you if you had looked into that at all. Like, I see that you have. I'm like, yeah. So you need to have at least 5 out of 9 of the traits for BPD. And so what I did was I wrote down all of the traits and the symptoms of the traits, like what this is, like what does that look like, and I wrote a number between 1 and 3. So 1 meant that it happened to me less as a child, and more as an adult, or 2, which meant it's happened to me just as much as when I was a child as now, like no change. Like, I've always still been experiencing that. And 3, which is more as an adult than as a child. And I had anecdotes that I gave her to illustrate these behaviors. So see, the 9 traits of BPD, and this is based on the Dr. Romani video that I mentioned: fear of abandonment, identity disturbance, suicide attempts and self-harm, affected instability, chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate intense show of anger, transient stress-induced paranoid ideation. And then some basic things like what would BPD look like? What would all of this actually look like? You would usually see fear of abandonment, um, interpersonal issues, uh, trouble regulating emotions. Um, there may be subtypes like more depressed, acting out, more petulant with tantrums, needs different treatments. Um, as fly. Um, and yeah, like sometimes it's could be, um, sometimes it could be misdiagnosed with as bipolar. And so what I had to do is I had to look at videos about bipolar disorder. And so that's how I followed that same process that my teenager's doctor did. Well, first, isolating these symptoms and then seeing what's left. That's what I did. Was I was like, okay, what was my bipolar symptoms, and then what is left over? And that is what happened. Was here's my bipolar symptoms, and then what we had left over, I still had BPD symptoms. At one point when I was talking with all of this, I had meant to say, since then, since I have not had him around, like there's been no contact. Like I haven't talked to him. Like the last time I talked to him was September 2019, and um, I was trying to. I had downloaded a program. I was trying to get my teenager into this online coding class, and you had to download the program. My nose has been itching. Excuse me. I'm gonna pause. Okay, I blew my nose. And when we originally got the computers, um, at that time, I had him set it up for her, and so he had an admin access, which I didn't know the password. So in order for me to be able to open the program for her, I needed the admin access password. And so I, of course, messaged him, hey, can I have this program for her? Can I please have the admin password so I can open it up? And he's like, I'll give it to you if I can talk to my youngest. And I was like, I didn't even answer him. I didn't even answer. Um, I took her computer to a friend of a friend's computer shop, and he gave me a good price on it, and went into it and like fixed it. Like we could get into it and reset that part. And yeah. In the end, the Wi-Fi signal thing on it was going out, and so she couldn't get internet on it. So in the end, I got her a new laptop. Um, but that's what happened. But I haven't communicated with him at all since then. So I have no idea where he is or what he's doing or if he's even still alive. But I guess we'll find out when I serve the divorce papers. Um, and I have no fear if he ever happens to find this video. I don't care. Um, so yeah, so there's yeah, but I haven't experienced a lot of my emotional dysregulation since then, but it was really powerfully bad. I was having some really bad emotional dysregulation. I don't have my fly swatter in here. This fly is driving me absolutely crazy. Um, and let's see. So, inappropriate, intense show of anger, throw, scream, and yell, quick and intense, violent, have really thick skin, hypersensitive emotions, feel regretful of angry bursts, terrified after of abandonment, get angry with self, leading to possible self-harm. And that's like a cycle. Those last three are like a cycle. And I've always gotten very strong emotions. Like I overreact. I have overreacted to things. I have overreacted to things. Um, I don't. I'm a lot more grounded and calm now. And it's natural. I've been working with crystals a lot, is what I do, and I'm totally, is fully my intention. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have my YouTube video, because I wanted to talk about that. Also, what I have done to help ground myself and emotionally regulate. But transient stress-induced paranoid ideation. This is under significant stress may experience paranoid delusions, and they'll look psychotic, and they'll have dissociative identity disorder, which also looks a lot like multiple personality disorder. And I think that I experienced that at times when I was a teenager. I'd like to talk about that experience some other time, though. That's like a big backstory for context. Um, Unstable interpersonal relationships, roller coaster feeling, rapid attachment, any kind of relationship. I have absolutely totally did that. The transient stress. So, oh, I see. I highlighted in yellow the ones that I felt that I resonated with. I highlighted the inappropriate intense show of anger. Yeah, dude, I would freak out. I would freak out. The fear of abandonment. That's a really big one for me. I like really had this fear of abandonment thing going on. Unstable interpersonal relationships. Yeah, I've had a lot of abandonment issues. That's, I think, why I was with him for so long, and with my previous ex, my oldest bio dad. Identity disturbance can look like multiple personalities. See, that's why I'm like, I always had such a hard time figuring out who I am. Now, that may be a little bit that Pisces thing, all the different imaginations and how do I see myself, and like I obsessed on this as a kid and teenager. I obsessed on this. I would draw different character personas of myself. Here is this me, and this me, and this me, and all the different friends that I had. I felt like I did better one on one because I was be that person. I would be a different person to each friend, but I wasn't being inauthentic. But I had trouble understanding how this worked, like had different aspects of myself and different friends that I had. I just intuitively felt that they could understand those different parts of me better than other parts of me. And so I would present that way to them. But I always envied. There's the fly. I want to get it. Ah! It's because I didn't have my fly swatter. um, I was always puzzled how can people just be all themselves with everybody all the time? I didn't get that. I just I didn't get that. Growing up, going to science fiction conventions, and you can, dress up like different costumes, characters, and whatever they call it, cosplay now. I am a little old school. Um, and I would make different costume characters, and I would, change throughout the con into them. And then I would draw myself as them, just in my life normally and pretend that. I was trying to reconcile the different parts of me into one being. And it's been a lifelong process. I honestly feel like it's only been in the last, very recently, that I've been able to start feeling like I'm integrating all of me and being who I am, no matter where I am or in what context I am. Now, how my behavior is, like, you're not gonna be all weird and crazy like you would at, say, Fairy and Human Relations Congress, that you would with your clients doing in-home caregiving. That's different, but there are just aspects, just my real self would still shine through. I would just monitor what I'm talking about. And it was also learning the emotional regulation with that too, went along with it. It's been a journey. Impulsivity, not mania, since it fluctuates, self-soothing habits, not addressing the problem, and having distractions. Yeah, I can be pretty impulsive. I've always been pretty impulsive. Although I will say that that can also be an ADHD thing too. And at the time that I was investigating this, I was not thinking about ADHD with myself. I was not considering that there could be a possibility that would have ADHD. Ever since I really acknowledged and figured out for sure that, okay, I have the Turner syndrome, or at least minor, like mild symptoms, mild trait symptoms, whatever, of Turner syndrome. A huge part of that was executive dysfunction issues. So it's actually been in the last couple of years that I started to pursue, finding that out for sure. Like, I want to confirm my Turner syndrome so that I can know, is my executive dysfunction from Turner syndrome, or is it ADHD, or is it both? So far, the result that I've arrived at, and we've done blood work and everything. God bless that person who did the blood work at the lab and had all of the patients to sit with me for a whole hour. Maybe it was longer than an hour. I don't remember. I have severe needle trauma, severe needle phobia, and she was so patient to draw that blood from me. We ended up doing it out of my hand, of course, because in the end, that's where it always comes out of, because of the scar tissue in my arm and my tiny vein in my other arm. That's how seriously I was wanting to find this out. Was I put myself through having blood drawn to find this out. And so far, all we've been able to tell is that my chromosomes just barely are like, maybe she has Turner's, but we aren't sure. So we were having my results and information and everything. We're having a referral sent from my doctor, a request for a referral to my doctor to refer me to a specialist in Turner's at this other medical school unit thing. And that was in February of this year. And in February, I had a lot of other things going on. And then in May, we moved into this house. And I had a lot of things going on, and I have not been able to come back to that process, but it has actually been on my mind again lately in the middle of everything else that I'm trying to do right now. I don't know if it's a good time to get in touch with that geneticist and say, hey, I'm ready to continue, but it's on my mind. So we're still in that process anyway. But yeah, the looking at the ADHD things, and then I've been researching more about ADHD, and especially also since we got a new diagnosis for my teenager in the results were in January, December, December, January, December or January or February last winter, this spring. Somewhere around there, we got results. Because I wasn't satisfied with the ADHD and autism diagnosis for my teenager. It just still felt like that there was something else. By the way, I did take her out of school in 2018 after all of that BS, but then had to put her back in for a period of time for work and stuff like that. But she's since been out of school totally since 2019. And we are unschooling, and it's the best. And yeah, it was sluggish cognitive tempo was the other diagnosis, which they have listed right now for her with the DSM, the current DSM, as a second subtype of her ADHD. We share some of that slow processing stuff, but mine is not nearly as bad as hers. But looking at a lot of the ADHD traits, I really feel like, okay, but I have executive dysfunction. Is it ADHD or is it Turner's? Is it both? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't really matter, but I've always felt like the more understanding and knowledge you have around something, the better equipped you are to find the right tools to help you navigate those situations. And so knowledge is power. And if I can just continue finding out more and more, then that's great. Yeah, there's no end to learning. There's so much to learn about. I get lost in a sea of information and articles. Like, I spend the first hour in bed when I wake up reading articles. I just have to read all of the articles. I have so much Aquarius brain. Mercury in Aquarius, Mars in Aquarius, Aquarius rising. I gotta know. Anyway, where are we at? Suicide attempts and self-harm. I totally have been suicidal on so many occasions. I have attempted suicide a few times. That was when I was a teenager. Affected instability, mood shift in a very short time, always act in line of their emotion, bipolar misdiagnosis, hyperactivity. That is absolutely me. That has not changed. That's very much. And the impulsivity, the identity disturbance is a 1-2. The unstable interpersonal relationship is a 2-3. Fear of abandonment was a 1. I'm not as bad with that as I was when I was little. The chronic feelings of emptiness. I don't think that I had ever really much had that. Yeah. Like, I don't know that I can really explain it, so I must not have experienced it. So that's what I have to say about the BPD. This video is the longest one yet. If you're still with me, thank you. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. I hope this helped you in some way. I think that I've learned not to say what the next thing I'll talk about is anymore, because it'll end up being something else. But there are certain things that I do intend to talk about. We'll get there. So hopefully I won't take as long to come back and do another video as this time. I had to deal with this tooth for a week, and just feelings of self-consciousness and lack of focus and direction, and just kind of not knowing exactly what I'm doing. Maybe next time I'll do a shorter update and just kind of say this is what's going on with me in my world right now, but I don't know, we'll see. All right, thank you so much for being here. I hope this helped in some way. I hope you found it interesting. Bye.